Because in Music Legacy we have people from beginner to pro, let's start at the beginning and give us an idea, you know, your childhood, how you got interested in music and how it evolved into where you are now.
Okay, well, we'll skip over the whole childhood thing. This was the whole reason I left home. I think when I was 14 years old, that's when I got kind of serious about with the guitar. And it was a way to escape where I was raised. And it was a way to just kind of fit in. So that's what I did. I had my first band when I was 15. And I had this, remember we only knew about 5 or 6 songs or 9 songs or something like that. We were playing a birthday party in somebody's backyard, one of the classmates. And an adult came up to me and he said, he asked me how old I was. And I said, well, I was 15. And he said, oh, you're pretty good for your age. And I was like, well, thanks. And for the last, I guess, 20 years, I've been doing this Blues in the Schools program in the middle schools. And at the end of one of these classes, some 14-year-old kid came up and he asked me how old I was. And when I said, well, I'm past 60 at that time, and he said, you're pretty good for your age. Yeah, so anyway, probably when I was like 16, I started really taking it seriously. And I knew that, you know, I was going to be leaving home, so I knew I had to earn a living at it. So that's what I did. I just got it so serious about it that I just practiced my ass off until I knew that I could at least, you know, somehow, through hook or crook, survive, you know, with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had little odd jobs, you know, during that. But for 2 years after I graduated high school, which that's a whole other thing, I was on the road either traveling with bands or I was hitchhiking with a good buddy of mine, you know, back and forth across the country. So it was like I was never in one place for too long. And then probably when I was about 20, I was living in the back of my friend's store in Brentwood. I used to hang around the music store a lot in Bay Shore. There's a community in Brentwood. It was a community center, Youth Development Corporation. And they asked my friend, you know, look, you got a project that'll benefit the youth. We'll be behind it. We'll write you a check. So he was writing a play. He studied playwriting, and he had me come in as a musician to score the music for it. And he asked, this place said, you want to, you know, teach some guitar? And I said, you know, I don't know. I never taught guitar before, but, you know, maybe. And he said, yeah, just a few kids. So I needed music books, and I went down to this music store where they all knew me. And the owner was like, you teach guitar? And I said, no, I don't. It's just for a community center, a few kids. He says, well, we need a guitar teacher. And I said, well, you then go find a guitar teacher, because I don't, you know, I play in bands and everything. I don't know anything from teaching it. And when he said, you know, what he's going to pay me, I changed my mind. And at 20 years old, it was jumping deep into the pool, trying to figure out how to do that. But yeah. I did. So that supplemented my income enough to the point where I could not starve. So I was teaching music out of this little music store and living in the back of my friend's store and playing gigs wherever I can get gigs. So that's kind of how the ball started rolling.
Cool, very cool. I heard a story about you learning the lead to an Allman Brothers song. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I learned a lot of them. I don't know which one.
Well, I heard that, I can't remember which song it was, but there was a double lead, and you learned it.
Oh.
Both leads you played at the same time?
Well, I remember trying to figure out the instrumental Little Martha.
Maybe it was that.
And I had figured out finger picking at that point. And, you know, most finger picking, it's just sort of like, you know, you're going back and forth like this with the bass, and then you're putting in an independent melody. So you're playing little things like Freight Train or stuff like that. And then at the same time, I was playing with bands in my early 20s, playing lead guitar. And then I thought, wouldn't it be kind of fun to try and figure out, rather than sharing money in a band, try to figure out how I can play those lead guitar parts and put the bass together. So that's what I was doing. And then when I figured out a different way of playing Little Martha, I decided to incorporate the styles of Duane Allman and Dickie Betts in that, and improvising in the middle of it while I was keeping the bass going and then keeping the theme of Little Martha going.
Wow.
So yeah, it kind of went in that direction, and it's been in that direction ever since. And
Yeah.
I think I've never heard anybody, and I'm not saying this to brag or anything, but in all honesty, I haven't heard anybody that's been able to, that even went in that direction of playing lead guitar here while the thumb's going here. And not just doing little things, but, doing complex improvisations, stuff that I did when I just played electric.
Yeah, we just love it. Your style is unique.
Yeah, I
Very
mean, it's
unique.
It's when everybody's going that way, you go that way, because it's gotten a lot of attention. So I can sound like a full band when it's just me. And I've always been attracted to improvisation. So it just kind of fit.
Yeah.
And
it has such a full sound. When you play it, you don't need anything else. You don't need anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I've used a bass player, best friend of mine, he's a bass player, and he's a different kind of bass player because he's a minimalist, so he doesn't get in the way of what I'm doing.
Right.
But it kind of like filled out a bottom, so there were times where I was using my friend Larry to do that. And it comes out working well. It really came out well for a time. Yeah.
Do you still do that, or?
No, Larry doesn't. He plays just a little bit now. It was something I did a long time ago. Yeah.
Cool. I know you just recently came back from England, right?
That was last year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. That was my 16th tour over in the British Isles.
Wow.
Yeah. Did a lot of touring, then 4 different tours over in Europe.
It sounds like they love you over there.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun to be tooling around there. And I remember one time when I rented this car, and I programmed the GPS, the voice, to sound like a British woman, a cute British woman, and we're driving along and you hear, we'll take the second exit from the roundabout, the 5 kilometers to your destination, stuff like that. And one tour I had was a 1,400-year-old Saxon church. Instead of bringing me to the church, she brings me to a graveyard. And then she says in that cute little British voice, "You've reached your final destination." I'm not kidding. You can't make that stuff up. But it turned out the church was on the other side of the graveyard, but the graveyard was immense, and it was on a hill.
Yeah.
So I kind of drove around, and then I saw where the church was.
That's cute.
There's lots of, over 16 tours over there. It's lots of stories over there.
Can you give us some towns that you were in?
Oh, God. I'll put it this way. Everything but London. I did a few gigs in London, but it's like New York City. They don't pay you much because they expect that you're privileged to play in London. All of the little Glastonbury and Cheltenham, there's just tons of them. Chittenden, there's so many of them. If I just had a map, I could just point out. It's all the villages and smaller towns. That was more fun. It was much more fun to play in those places.
Yeah, now the clubs are different than here, I would imagine, right?
Well, the clubs are the same in the sense that the other clubs where you have everybody is playing tribute. Tribute this, tribute that, tribute everything. So that was very popular and still is in England as here. It's getting more popular here, unfortunately. Most of the places that I played, in the theaters, the halls, even in small little restaurants and small little pubs, the difference. I mean, the first pub I ever played, I looked at the worksheet and I told my manager over there, I said, "It's a pub? You're crying out loud." I gave up playing bars a long time ago. Nobody listens to it. And he says, "This is different." And sure enough, walk into this, it was called The Anchor. I think it was in Maidstone. I walked in and I see these black and white photographs on the wall of all these people that I love, that played there. And I'm saying, damn, and it's a little tiny stage, and there's a bar. And anyway, I figured to myself that I'm just going to just play to nobody, and I can't tell any stories while I'm up there because I'm going to be talking to myself. And sure enough, when the manager, when everything's set up, and this place was packed with people, when he said, we have an American artist here, it just, nobody said a word. It was like a pin drop. And I was just like, they're going to listen? That's not a bar. And and that's what pubs are like over there.
And they appreciated what you did.
Yeah, because, it's the American artist coming over and performing. So, so between the pubs and the small theaters and some of the larger theaters and the village halls, and maybe even the top part of a building that the local blues organization would rent out for their event.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's all these different types of places. And, you don't find little places like, there's some places like that in London, but I was up in Glastonbury in Scotland, and it was a blues club. And went in there and got to the hotel, and it was walking distance. That was nice, to the club. And I got there early and walked over to the club, and it was down a few steps right in the city streets. And I see big paintings of Muddy Waters and Sonny Boy Williamson and all this. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be good. And I couldn't have been more wrong.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the place was just filled with a bunch of 20-something yobs and their girlfriends, and they're just screaming over the loud noise, trying to talk to each other. Sound system it just sucked. I'm just thinking, well, okay, this is just going to be a wallpaper gig. Nobody's going to be listening, so I'm just going to... The pay was good. I don't know why they were paying me so much, because nobody was listening. There weren't blues fans there. But the ironic thing was, under one of the speakers, there's a little booth, and these two elderly people were straining to listen to what I was doing. So I was really kind of just playing to them. And when I got done, I walked over to them and apologized. I said, I'm really sorry, and all the noise in this place and everything. I'm surprised you could even hear anything out of them. He said, no. It turns out the guy had written biography of Mississippi John Hurt. He was the author of this one great book of Mississippi John Hurt and his wife. And I felt so bad for him. And then he said, yeah, I said, well, where are you from? And they said, we're from Liverpool. And I said, son of a, I just played Liverpool last night at a yacht club, and everybody was listening. And they go, we had no idea. So they could have, so the venues really vary a great deal.
What about the buildings? Are there a lot of older buildings?
Yeah, there's some buildings that, there's some of them that have been around, God, for a long, long time. The architecture in some of these little villages, you just, if it wasn't for a paved street, you would just think at any minute a little wagon with horses are going to come right around the corner.
I ask you that because I just got back from Germany, Denmark, and Sweden.
Yeah.
And it was like going back in time sometimes.
Yeah.
Cobblestone streets.
Yeah, the
thatched
cobblestone.
roofs.
And I know, I've been in Germany many times, and you got the little sidewalks that may be this wide.
Mm-hmm.
And, just maybe for one person to go walking around in some of these little... I played a lot in Germany.
Yeah.
It's nice there.
Yeah, there are a lot of nice places there.
Mm-hmm.
They're really into the music.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your plans now for the future? What are you going to do with your music next?
It's interesting when people say about the future, because, when you talk about the future, when anyone discusses the future, it's usually goals, right? And it's not what you do tomorrow. Right. It's what you do today to reach a particular goal. You think of the step. It's like, a GPS. You program it for a destination, and that gives you a few options of reaching that destination. And the same thing with goals in the future, because you have goals and say, that's where I want to go, and how am I going to get there? So the real trick is when you may not have any goals and you don't know about a destination. And the idea when you're in that position is to collect, I think, a certain amount of, it's going to sound woo-woo and stuff, but it's finding a groove that you can stay right within the present and do things within that groove, because
that's all you got.
Well, it's what you have. And what I've always found in my life is that when you're in that space and doing things that keep you in that space, that a destination appears.
Arrives, yeah.
I don't know how many times that I've just gotten in my car, or whatever I was driving at the time, and just pointed it in a direction. Like when I move out to New Jersey, with best person in my life, get in the camper and just go west. And whatever happens, happens. Stay off the interstates, stay on the blue highways.
Follow your heart, right?
What's that?
Follow your heart.
Yeah, that's just about it. I mean, when I practice and when I play music, now, it's a totally way of staying in the moment, and it's almost better than even meditating. And what comes from that, who knows? I mean, where I'm moving, it's going to be I was thinking about this the other day, it's going to be my 28th address, mailing address since I left home at 17. 28 different, and I think I might have left out one. I was thinking about that this morning. So the only thing that has been a constant has been my music. And that's what I still do, but I don't know yet where the next destination is yet.
Like a milestone.
And I'm not worried about it. I never worried about it. Yeah. It's just like, okay, whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to keep playing. And things just always appear when you don't have a goal or a destination. You just stay within that space. And in my life, at least, things have just always came up. They just appeared. And the whole touring in England happened that way. I had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah, how did that come about?
Well, I came out with this recording, Cool Hand, this album called Cool Hand, and I was just sending it out for reviews everywhere, anywhere, anyone that was reviewing stuff, I sent it out. I get an email from a guy named John Adams in England, and he said one of his patrons, he ran 2 clubs in England, because one of his patrons handed him that CD. And he listened to it, and he says, "I want you over here." And I was like, I in the email, I was like, when you're talking to somebody on the phone, it's a whole different deal. I don't like doing that. I'd rather take my time and check that person out. Can't do that on the phone. So this was on an email. So I checked out him. I checked out his agency, the Bottleneck Blues Agency. I saw a couple of people I knew that was in his stable, and I figured, I know those guys. I got a hold of one of them.
They were guys from here?
No, one was in Australia.
Oh, okay.
Another one was in Virginia. These guys, they're good guys. They had nothing but good words to say about John Adams. So I got back to him. I said, all right, fine. And flew out there. It was a 7-date tour, just an exploratory tour. And after the first gig, which was that one in Anchor that I told you about, the Anchor pub. After the first one, we were back at his house, and he just turned around and said, "That's it. I want you in my stable. I want to manage you. I want to book you." And on a handshake...
So he became your manager.
Yeah, and we did it for years and years until he retired, and he went to Cyprus. And then he was booking me over in Cyprus. I had no idea where Cyprus was.
Wow.
And he says, he goes, "It's no problem. It's easy to find. It's just a 10-minute ride in an F-14 to Syria."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that was happening over there. One of the gigs, one of the tours, John, due to circumstances beyond his control, he had to get a different place to live. He put me up at a different place. We would meet at one of his friends' flats. And this guy named Peter, and we called him Aunt Peter or Auntie Peter because he was so obsessive. He was obsessive compulsive, and he was just a crazy guy. So during the day, he used to work. He was a civil servant. And when we were there during the day, just hanging out before we had to go off on a little mini tour. So we're over there one time and sitting in the living room, and I'm reading a book or something, and John's sitting across. I know he's reading a newspaper. I wanted to watch something on the television. So John was like, I see he had all these DVDs. And I said, well, let me see what he's got. He goes, Toby, don't. If you touch something, put it exactly back where it is. Peter knows where everything is exactly. And I'm like, all right, don't worry about it. And I pull out something and pop it in. I'm watching it for a little while, and I take it out and put it in. He goes, just make sure. And I said, okay, I'm going to go in the kitchen and get something to eat. Do you want anything? He goes, don't, my God, don't go in there. He counts the slices of bread. I mean, he was really, and Peter was like this. So I said, don't worry about it. And I went in, and I grabbed myself some cookies, and I came back. And John said, he goes, I'm going upstairs to take a kip, which was a nap. And so he goes in, he goes, I'll be down in a half hour. Peter will be back. I said, okay. So he goes upstairs. He shouldn't have left me alone. I rearranged all the furniture in the living room.
Oh, my God.
I took the cushions off the couches, threw them all over the place. And 30 minutes later, he comes down. Good God, Debbie, you bastard, what have you done? And I'm just laughing. I said, well, what are you talking about? Peter's going to be home any minute. And, because there was indentations in the rug, we kind of knew where the furniture was supposed to go back. And we're running around. He's running and putting stuff back and taking cushions and trying to match them up. And I'm like, oh, you missed one. He goes, like this, He gets everything. And I rearranged everything in this place. So get it together, and he sits back down. I'm sitting. About 10 minutes later, Peter comes in. I remember Pete was like, hey, Toby. And I was like, yeah, hey, Pete. And I was like, John. And John's like, yeah, I love you. And Peter comes in. He's like, like this. And I'm just sitting there like, what's up, Pete? Is there something to? Oh. And there was a clock up on the mantle of the fireplace, which I had turned around. So he goes, this is interesting. And he turns it back, and he walks into the kitchen. And I look over at John. I said, you missed that one, didn't you? He goes, John's like, you bastard. So Peter comes back in, and he goes, who had cookies? He counts. He counted stuff in the refrigerator. He must have opened up the little and counted the cookies. And I immediately looked right over and I went, Peter, John did. So, me and John, we used to pull a lot of pranks on each other, because you have to do, when you were on the road for 3, 4, 5 weeks, you just have to, we got along, we were mates and we got along really well, but you have to do things just to kind of keep the ball rolling. And he did a lot of stuff for me over there. So, I had a great time touring there, and France and Belgium and Germany and Holland and, Cyprus, a bunch of places.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Meet new people, right? And it's nice when you go someplace and the people who live there are taking you around and they're showing you things. I'd love to hear the history of the different places.
Yeah. You get a lot of that. A lot of people come over and they'll take you all over the place and show you around. And like I was saying about before in the hallway and in Liverpool, I have some good friends there, and they were friends with the quarrymen when they were the quarrymen. They knew the quarrymen. They knew John Lennon. And they knew when John met Paul. They knew Pete Best. They knew when George came in. They were all, it was like the neighborhood kid. The Beatles were, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 years older than them. But, all the neighborhood kids would be there. Just, that was their band.
Yeah. I can't imagine that band evolving in your own neighborhood. Imagine that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, John would bring me we're in the west part of London. He brings me into this club. Got the Crawdaddy. We're waiting for this one table. There's a bunch of open tables. He said, gotta have that one. And we get this old oak table. And the ceiling, was originally probably white, but it's stained brown from 200-300 years of smoke.
Cigarette smoke, yeah.
And he goes, this is the table, Tobes. this is the table. I'm like, what's with the table? And he says that him and his mates used to take the tube and with their guitars, and they'd go to the Crawdaddy and they'd sit around and play skiffle music.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he goes,
yeah.
and and one time, Eric came in and joined us. I'm like,
Clapton?
it was Clapton.
Wow.
And he says, yeah, he was like about a few years older than, but they all came from
that area.
and communed or in that whole area. And you had Rigby, just south London, where Clapton was from, but they all knew that whole area. Eel Pie Island was where they all played, and that was in that area. So it was really, those years were really, really great.
And to hear it right from somebody who lived it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was fun. So that, it's funny how music and the guitar, I like to say, basically saved me, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling. All of a sudden, I guess I was probably a little bit older when I started playing. I was probably like 15-ish. It just all of a sudden it shows up from somewhere inside.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a songwriter. So people always say, well, how do you write songs? Do you write the words first or the music? It's like, I don't actually do anything. It just shows up through me.
That's how I improvise.
Yeah.
Is it's a split second before, like I'm visual, so I see the patterns start coming up before a split second before I start playing them. But I know what they're going to sound like because I played various different things over the years. So,
sure, yeah.
But I see them come up and start combing. It's weird, combing together. I mean, I guess people that take LSD a lot would know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. All right, cool. Now, something that you want your fans to know, like what's your schedule look like now?
Well, it depends on when this is going to be aired, because, I'm doing like a gig tomorrow night and then another one after that, and then a radio interview on WSB on the Sunday. But I don't know when this is going to be aired, but I know that I'm going to be back on Long Island in October. There's a little bookstore called The Next Chapter in Huntington.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, and
I'm on
I
their
didn't even
mailing
know
list.
about it. I knew the book review.
Yeah,
that was
for years.
When I was on the island, that was always my favorite place to go to. But I didn't know I was going to be moving now. I thought I was going to be here probably till November. So I booked that in October. But I'll come in from wherever I am, probably New Jersey at that point in October, to come in and do that gig. So, it's in October. I'm not sure the exact date, but it's on my website.
Yeah, tell everybody your website.
Yeah, Little Toby Walker. Where's the camera? I guess there. They've got three of them. LittleTobyWalker.com. My mother said to choose this one. Yeah, LittleTobyWalker.com, and they can see the calendar.
Cool.
And, where I'm going to be and where I've been. Yeah.
All right, good. After our interview, I'm going to go there, and then I'll put some of those dates in my calendar. Mm-hmm. Make sure we come and see you.
Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff on there. And
now, are you still selling your lessons?
Yeah, there's a sister website that I have, TobyWalkersLessons.com, and you can get there from LittleTobyWalker.com. And the lessons they're all streamed, and there's physical tablature and notation that people can download. It's a subscription service, but people can purchase probably an individual lesson and be on that site, and they have their own personal library of whatever lessons they're working on.
Oh, cool.
And there's a forum on there that people go to, and there's a lot of free stuff up there too. So but those two websites, that's the two that I maintain.
Great, good. All right. Anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Can't think of anything offhand other than my favorite drink is a mojito, and flavored ice cream is Breyer's Mint chocolate chip. There we go.
Okay. Those mojitos are good.
Yeah, they're dangerous. I had a couple last night. Anyway, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's a thrill for me because, like I said, I've been a big fan for many years. It's a family thing. I turned my uncle on to you, my sons, and whenever you're...
Just corrupting everybody in your circle, aren't you?
As many as I can. Yeah, because it's an experience. It really is.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to see Toby play, you have to take advantage of it because he really is an artist. He's a fantastic guitarist. If he's near you playing, make sure you take the time to go see him. Toby?
Thanks a lot.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
My
Yeah.
pleasure.
Absolutely.
Music Legacy International.